My name is Jonah from Meta Athletics, and in this video I'm going to show you 3 of the most common sprinting mistakes I see athletes making that you're probably making, and then how you can fix every single one of them. Let's get right into it. So mistake number 1, this is the most common mistake I see athletes making, is backside dominant sprinting. This is caused by a few major things that are pretty easy to clean up once you get the hang of them. So the biggest one is an excessive forward lean when you're going from acceleration to top speed, so that transition phase, and then when you're actually in top speed as well. So if you watch someone run at top speed, they'll have a very slight lean kind of in the chest, torso area might be protruded forward a little bit, but usually I find that doesn't actually have to be cued or told to do. It'll happen naturally. What I tell athletes to do is have a tall, upright posture, don't lean forward, and that should clean up that postural side of things. So when I say poor acceleration or transition technique, this is where athletes screw this up the most, and this is the biggest reason for the backside dominant sprinting. So when you're accelerating, what you'll see a lot of athletes do is their chest and hips will be facing the ground when they're accelerating, because you come out low, you have that position that's kind of like a 45-degree angle to the ground. But what a lot of athletes will do is they'll actually raise their head up much earlier than their chest and the rest of their body comes up. That really throws off your hip and pelvis posture, and that's what causes backside dominant sprinting. Next thing is, how do we fix all of these mistakes so you can do this properly and get rid of that backside dominance? Couple of drills. These are probably my go-to drills for athletes and for myself when I'm trying to clean up backside dominance. So to cue in that tall, upright posture, what I'll tell athletes to do is in their warm-up drills, so whether it's like an A skip, A switches, I'll tell them to put their hands up high, just like completely straight up as high as they can go. And what this does is this forces you to almost stretch your body upwards, so you're used to being tall and not leaning forward, because that'll clean up that part of it. And on top of that, I love using wicket runs and dribbles as well. So wickets, they are a way to force you out of that backside dominant sprinting without having to think of it too much, because the cones essentially do the work for you. Because when you run through the cones, if you set them up properly, you don't want to spend too long on the ground, otherwise you might end up hitting a cone. And so what happens is you start striking the ground under you, you start having that nice upright posture. So highly recommend wickets if you struggle with this. And then dribbles as well, because dribbles are almost like a remedial version of top speed, where you're going slower, you're really focusing on the leg action, and you're really focusing on postures. And then as you get more proficient at doing those things, then you can pick up the speed and then eventually turn it into a top speed sprint. So that's kind of how that transfers over. So as I mentioned on the last slide, is when athletes will raise their head too early before their body. So what you want to do is you want to practice raising your body as one unit. So imagine there's a pole, a metal pole that goes through your head and comes out your tailbone. It's almost like a shish kebab, like your head, neck, chest, and torso, none of them can move separately from one another, but they have to move all at once. So what'll happen is you'll actually spend more time looking down on the ground than you will straight up, because a lot of athletes, they want to immediately pop their head up to look where they're going. So you have to get comfortable with looking down, and you'll see there's a drill that I use with my athletes as well. It's a rise drill, where all it is, you're just practicing moving your entire hip to head all up at the same time. And if you can do this, because the biggest culprit for backside dominant sprinting is a poor pelvic posture, this essentially fixes that pelvic posture, because the pelvis gets thrown out of proper alignment when you lift that head up too early. All right, mistake number 2, staying low in acceleration. Now this one is a bit controversial, but let me explain. Yes, you want to be low in acceleration. If you watch elite athletes, they project out of the blocks at like a 45-degree angle relative to the ground. It's pretty insane, but they're able to do this because they're so strong and powerful. They don't force themselves to stay this low for as long as possible. Where a lot of athletes will go wrong is they'll try and keep themselves as low to the ground for as long as possible, which is not how acceleration works. This is where athletes misunderstand how acceleration works. So what you want is, with every single acceleration step you take, and you'll see in this graph here, you want the angle of your body relative to the ground to rise up with every single step you take. So no 2 steps should look the exact same, and if they do, then you're doing it wrong. So yes, being low is ideal, but not when you force yourself to be low. So how can we fix this? As I mentioned, you slowly raise your body angle up with every single step. A couple cues I like to use is, think about you're using your legs to push yourself upwards. So you're going down from that 45-ish degree angle if you're really strong to that straight upright posture. Just focus on pushing yourself up with your legs, almost like you're climbing stairs is how it should feel. To get more proficient at holding those lower positions, so you don't have to force yourself into those low positions, it's all about just getting stronger and more powerful, especially horizontal power. So to improve these things, that's where your weight room strength can be really beneficial, your squats, your Olympic lifts, all that stuff to improve your strength and power. And then as for plyometrics, use horizontal plyometrics where you're focusing on going as far forward as possible, not necessarily vertical like a hurdle hop. So your broad jumps, triple broad jumps, and then resisted sprints are amazing as well, whether that's a sled sprint or a hill sprint. You can do them heavy or light. If you have a really good weight room program in place, then you can probably keep the resisted sprints on the lighter end. But if you're not doing much weightlifting, then the heavy resisted sprints are really good for that. All right, mistake number 3 is overstriding. Pretty much every athlete that sends us videos on social media, they all overstride. And so there's different culprits for these depending on if you're in acceleration or top speed. So we'll start with acceleration. So when you're in acceleration, specifically on those initial like 1 to 5 steps, let's say, you want to focus on using your legs to attack the ground straight down and back, not just straight down. So what a lot of athletes will do is they'll just focus on attacking straight down. But in acceleration, you want your leg, or your foot specifically, to land either under your hip region or slightly behind it. But if you're attacking straight down, you won't get that. So you have to focus on attacking down and back. Again, another reason of the overstriding is, or another cause of it, is forcing yourself to stay low. So the reason why you have to rise your body with every single step instead of forcing yourself to stay low is, as I mentioned, you want to attack down and back. And so if you keep attacking down and back while forcing yourself to stay low, you'll essentially over rotate and you'll throw your body to fall. So what your body does to avoid falling is it overstrides and places your leg out in front of you to essentially catch yourself. Because if someone pushed you from the back, what does your body do? You stick your leg out to catch yourself. And that's exactly what happens in acceleration for overstriding if you do those things wrong. And then as for top speed, I used to be really bad for this. A lot of athletes are really bad for this, is they'll almost kick out their legs once it comes to the front side, as if they're trying to reach for the ground to try and get further and try and artificially increase their stride length. That's a big one that'll cause overstriding too, because in top speed, it's pretty much impossible to land directly under your hip region, and you definitely don't want to land behind your hip region. You'll just land very slightly in front, but if you're reaching, you'll land way too far out in front. So how to fix these? Acceleration, it's simple. Focus on attacking down and back, not just down. And an easy way to do that is to keep your knee joint slightly locked. So a lot of athletes, as soon as they bring that leg to the front, they'll just unlock the knee, and then it has no choice but to attack the ground straight down. So in top speed, simple fix, focus on attacking down instead of reaching out straight forward. And really good drills for these that I like to use in my warm-ups on top speed days are A marches, where you're just focusing on attacking down. And with these, and with the switch drills as well, you're doing like the single switch, double switch, or triple switch, where it's all about just focusing on attacking straight down. And with these is when I like to pair it with like the overhead, where you're focusing on that tall upright posture. You can do it where you're just sticking your hands straight up, or you can hold a stick high above your head, all that kind of stuff. Again, dribbles and wickets. If you execute dribbles and wickets properly and practice them consistently, you'll fix your overstriding pretty easily. So if you found this video useful, if you like videos like these, consider liking, subscribing, and thanks for watching.